Okay, problem number 7. The diagram shows part of the graph of the first derivative. The x-intercepts are a and c. There is a minimum at b and a maximum at d. Write down the value of f prime of x at c. Okay, so that does say write down the value of this function at c. So at point c, the value, remember value means the y value. So the y value there would be 0. So f prime of x is equal to 0 at c. Okay, hence show that c corresponds to a minimum on the graph of f, i.e. it has the same x coordinate. Okay, so this is the first derivative, and they're saying show that this point c is a minimum on the original function, which we don't see here, right? This is the derivative function. This is the gradient function. So at point C, the slope is 0, so we know it's either a maximum or a minimum. Coming into C, I have negative y values. So negative y values means the slope is negative. And then at C, my slope is going to be 0. And then coming out of C, my slope is going to be positive. So there's going to be negative slopes and then a positive slope, because these are my negative. This is a negative slope, and these are positive slope values. So the gradient function tells us the value of the slope at any given point on the original function. So we know that the slope is negative, means it's coming down. We know it's 0 at c, and then we know that afterwards it has a positive slope. Therefore, c must be a minimum. Okay, hence show that c corresponds to a minimum on the graph of f. It has the same x coordinate, okay, because their slope, it's a negative going into a positive slope. Okay, so that's kind of that. All right, oh, and here slope is 0. Slope equal to 0, so positive slope and a negative slope. All right, which of the points, A, B, or D, corresponds to a maximum on the graph of f? Okay, so at a maximum, again, the slope is going to be 0. So we're looking for where does the slope equal 0? That is at point A. Okay, so point A would be the point that corresponds to a maximum. Show that B corresponds, and why is it a maximum and not a minimum? Because it's got a positive slope coming into it and negative coming out. Okay, so it's got positive, there's point A, and then it's got a negative slope coming out. Show that B corresponds to a point of inflection on the graph of f. Okay, so this is the first derivative. The second derivative of the function at B would be equal to 0, because right here a tangent line would have a slope of 0. So the second derivative would be equal to 0, and when the second derivative is equal to 0, we have a point of inflection. Okay, so so at the second derivative at b equals 0, because b equals 0 because the gradient of first derivative at b is 0. Okay, and the second derivative tells us where the inflection point is. All right, something like that. Okay, so it's just the idea that the first derivative of a function can give you the maximum and minimums, and the second derivative can give you the inflection points. Okay, so that was number 7.